My name is Arthur Calloway. I am 68 years old, and I was sitting beside my wife's hospital bed, watching her fight to breathe, when my daughter called to ask me to prepare our mountain house for 15 of her in-laws' vacation. Your mother is in critical condition. I told her the doctor said she needs that house to recover. My son-in-law took the phone and told me the plans were set, nothing was changing, and I should just leave the key. I said, fine, but by the time their caravan pulled up on Friday afternoon, nothing about that house was going to be what they expected. Before I tell you what happened next, please hit like and subscribe. Drop your city and local time below. I love knowing where you're listening from. Now let me take you back to that same night, hours before their cars ever left the driveway, when I was still just a man sitting in a hard hospital chair, holding my wife's hand. The heart monitor beside Clara's bed kept time like a metronome for a song nobody wanted to hear. I'd been sitting in that hospital chair for 6 hours. Kind hospitals designed to look comfortable and never quite manage it. Clara had a severe immunodeficiency condition following pneumonia that wouldn't leave, and by July she was here with a mask over her face and machines charting every breath. I'd spent 41 years in construction, understood my body the way a mechanic understands an engine. Sitting still watching someone I loved fight for air was the hardest physical thing I'd ever done. The doctor had told me plainly in the hallway, clean air, no stress, no visitors, weeks of recovery, and the mountain house was exactly the environment she needed. My daughter Chloe called that evening, bright and efficient, already deciding how the conversation would go. 15 of Julian's family were coming from Phoenix to use the mountain house that weekend. When I told her Clara needed that house to recover, she barely absorbed it before pivoting to a grocery list and a shellfish allergy. Julian took the phone and told me the plans were set. I told him my wife needed a machine to help her breathe. He told me to leave a key with the neighbor if I didn't want to be there myself. I remembered 2012, when Chloe convinced me to sell my 1969 Mustang, the car Clara used to bring coffee to on Saturday mornings, sitting on an overturned bucket watching me work to cover $8,000 for her wedding venue. 3 weeks after the wedding, I learned that money had actually funded a resort trip to Cabo for Julian's entire family. When I asked her about it, she said, "Dad, you said you wanted us to be happy. That was the first time, it was not the last." I said fine to Julian on the phone, and I understood, standing in that hospital hallway, that the word meant something different this time than it ever had before. Chloe thought she'd won the way she always won. She didn't know I was already reaching for my car keys. I told Clara I needed to check on the house. She read the set of my jaw the way I read her monitors. "After 31 years of marriage, Arthur," she said quietly, "whatever you're thinking about doing." I squeezed her hand once and told her to rest. That's the word Chloe always used. I remember thinking, driving the empty freeway north that night, plans for everything that used to require simply asking. The mountain road climbed into the San Gabriels, the air dropping cool through my cracked window. Pine and dark and quiet. I unlocked the door with the key that had been on my ring for 8 years and found Clara's chipped coffee mug still in the drying rack, her father's mahogany desk in her office, a half-finished crossword on the coffee table with the pencil still resting in the fold. Every room held her the way houses hold the people who love them. That's when Gavin Merritt, our neighbor across the road, a retired LAPD detective, told me 2 young people had come by the week before, walking the property line, looking in windows, telling him it was their house. Dark-haired woman, early 30s, doing most of the talking. I didn't have to ask her name. "It's Clara's house," I told Gavin. "Her name's been on the deed since 2016. Chloe has no ownership here, not a dollar of it." Gavin said he already knew that. Clara's father had told him himself, years ago, the day he signed the papers over. I texted Jim Riley, the best locksmith in the county, and asked him to meet me at the house at 7 the next morning. Sitting alone in that kitchen past midnight, I opened Clara's laptop and pulled the deed records myself, printing 3 copies, one for the front door, one for my attorney, one for myself. I called Clara's estate attorney, a careful woman named Renata Vance who'd handled her parents' transfer of the property in 2016. I explained everything, the hospital, the diagnosis, Chloe's plans for the weekend, the couple who'd already been scouting the property like it belonged to them. Renata was quiet for a moment, then told me Clara, as sole owner, had every legal right to deny access to anyone, including her own children, and that documenting an unauthorized entry attempt could matter a great deal if this pattern continued. Gavin came back the next morning with his own offer, not officially. He said, just as a neighbor who used to do this kind of thing for a living, he'd be around Friday afternoon, whether I asked him to be or not. I texted Renata 2 words that night: we're ready. Renata walked me through it clearly the next day. Since the house was solely in Clara's name, I could legally have the locks changed, post a formal notice of trespass, and, if anyone attempted entry after that notice, involve law enforcement without any ambiguity about ownership. Chloe called twice more that week, her tone shifting from confident to faintly wounded. Dad, why does this feel like you're punishing us for making plans? A guilt trip wrapped in the language of family loyalty. I'll think about it, I told her, and gave nothing else away. Gavin's wife, Louise, who'd known Clara since before Chloe was born, stopped by with a casserole and sat with me on the porch a while, not asking many questions, just noticing I looked tired in a way she hadn't seen before. The night before Friday, I sat on that porch with the pines moving in the dark and thought, I wish this were different. I wish Chloe had asked instead of assumed. Chosen her mother over a weekend with in-laws she barely knew a year ago. I wish love in that family hadn't always come with a bill attached, but wishes don't protect the house. Locks and documentation too. I sat with that a long while. Not crying from weakness, from finally understanding exactly how many times I'd let fine mean surrender. It was 11:50 p.m. on Thursday, the night before the caravan was due to arrive. The mountain house was silent. Just wind in the pines and the tick of the cooling truck engine outside. I sat at Clara's kitchen table with one lamp on, a call open to Renata's office. We reviewed everything one final time, the locksmith scheduled for 7 the next morning, the formal notice of trespass ready to post at the property line, the deed copies laminated and placed both at the front door and with Gavin, in case anyone doubted what they were looking at. You're doing exactly what Clara would want. Renata said nothing more than protecting what's legally hers. I signed the authorization at 12:03 a.m. 12:03 a.m. I am 68 years old, and by tomorrow afternoon, 15 people are going to learn that a house is not a plan just because someone assumed it was theirs to use. Down in the city, Chloe and Julian were almost certainly asleep, confident the matter had already been settled with a single word over the phone. They'd learn otherwise within 24 hours. Jim Riley arrived at 7 sharp and had every lock on the house changed within the hour. Gavin helped me post the formal notice at the base of the driveway, laminated, clearly legible, Clara's name on the deed printed beneath it. The caravan arrived Friday afternoon exactly as promised, a line of cars pulling up to a locked gate and a notice they hadn't expected. Chloe called within minutes, her voice climbing fast. Dad, what is this? You can't just lock us out of our own house. It was never your house, Chloe, I said calmly. It's your mother's. She's fighting for her life in a hospital bed right now. And this property exists so she has somewhere quiet to heal when she's strong enough to come home to it. That's what it's for. Julian got on the phone, angrier now, threatening to call a locksmith of his own. Gavin, standing beside me on the porch, mentioned mildly that he still had contacts at the sheriff's department, and that trespassing on posted private property tended to go badly for people who didn't take the sign seriously. The caravan didn't stay. They drove back down the mountain the way they'd come. Clara's father built things the way Finnish carpenters build things, with the assumption they'd outlast him. I always thought that was about the porch railing. It was really about everything he left behind, including a daughter who understood exactly what it meant to protect something worth keeping. Chloe and Julian didn't speak to me for several months afterward. Slowly, carefully, we started rebuilding something smaller and more honest than what came before. Clara recovered fully by September and finished her crossword puzzle from that coffee table the week she came home. Gavin still checks on the place when we're not there, the way he always has, without needing to be asked. As for me, I still keep that key on my ring, and some evenings I sit on that porch and watch the pines go dark against the sky, and it feels, for the first time in a long while, like the house is exactly what it was always meant to be. If you've ever had to protect something that mattered more than keeping the peace, I want to hear your story. Tell me in the comments. And if this story moved you, subscribe to Dad's Revenge Tales. There are more to come.